Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Wanted to do a shout out to Irradiate the New World Order. He gave me some constructive criticism about a tremendously bad habit that I have of saying So I'm going to try to not do that as much. It's going to be difficult. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks. This is my third take, so I caught myself doing it multiple times, so this is going to have to be the last one because I'm just going to try to break the habit slowly. So maybe I'll do a running counter at the bottom of how many times I do it. Anyway, this is the pennant that we pointed out yesterday. We did break through to the upside as I expected. Pretty strong move. Seems to actually be forming its own little pennant. And that appears to be even a stronger pennant than the last one we formed. We're at about 3060, and this pennant, if it goes through 3120, we're going to be off to the races. So it looks pretty bullish at this point. I wanted to point out another formation that's starting to show up on the charts. This is looking like a pretty strong cup formation. Seems to have a handle here and the cup. These tend to resolve as well, like the pennants, to the upside. Wanted to show you a cup that we formed quite a while back. This is the one that James Turk pointed out, and you can see this one that's about mid-2008 to mid-2010, so that's a 2-year one. You can see the one we're forming now doesn't even show up on this, but when you're in a parabolic move, the time compresses, so that's to be expected. Anyway, James Turk predicted that we would blast out of this one and go to straight 30. He pretty much was spot on. Some people have criticized his timing, which was off by maybe weeks, but he pretty much nailed that one. So all the patterns seem to be aligning, and we'll wait and see where we go with this. I would expect tonight that if we get a strong move out of Asia, we could very well surpass the 3120, and tomorrow we may be off to the races. We're just going to have to wait and see. Silver looks really strong. There's only a few days of resistance built up here that we have to get through, and once we get through that, then there's no overhead resistance at all. Not a lot of transactions occurred here, and we're working on it right now. We're trading at the price. We're not just touching it and falling back, but we're penetrating into this price range now and starting to trade at it. So it wouldn't be surprising to see it spend a little time here and then rocket higher, hopefully into new highs, and then hopefully on to 35. Wanted to point out a couple of articles. First is Harvey Organ, and he has a great site. I don't know if all of you follow it. I will put a link to it. He does a real intense analysis of the COMEX and COMEX trading for silver and gold. He tracks the open interest and tracks the SLV. Down here he points out on the Friday SLV registered total ounces in the trust 333 million. Now if you think about it, 333 million, what's that? That's about $10 billion. So it's not a lot of money. But do you really believe that JP Morgan has 333 million physical ounces of silver stocked in a warehouse somewhere? Think about Sprott. Here's the Sprott Premium, 12.66%. Remember how long it took Sprott to accumulate that physical silver? But as others have pointed out, sometimes the SLV, I think there was a date when the SLV traded 150 million shares or 150 million ounces changing hands. I don't think it gained that many ounces, but isn't it a little bit suspicious the way this SLV just seamlessly accumulates these hundreds of millions of ounces while Sprott had to wait for months and months and months? So it just doesn't pass the smell test. And the way they've now made SLV shares deliverable against the whole thing just stinks, to tell you the truth. I don't think they have the silver. I don't think they even have a fraction of that silver. So it's just paper for paper for paper. There's just a whole bunch of paper silver. I think they've determined that they're going to run the silver down to nothing until, they're still running their 200 million a year deficit. They're still drawing down and they're running out. And I think they've just made up their minds that they're going to play this thing to the bitter end. I think there's a lot of other things connected. Probably a reset with the currencies. A reset with potentially the nation states even. And a new world system. I think they're just drawing it out to the bitter end. And under a new system, under a new currency, or even before that, we're going to see the move in silver. Some have said threefold. I think tenfold to 30-fold. $1,000 I think is conservative. When all of the fundamentals come out, when the music stops and the chairs are there and there's only 3 chairs and there's 300 people in the room, I think they're going to realize how bad the situation is. Until then, everything's covered up with paper, and it's just not going to come out until they let it come out. Eventually, supply and demand will always win out. I think we're starting to see that. We'll see how much they sweat when we start moving towards 35. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow.